You're listening to 27 Degrees SAG, broadcasting from the Galactic Center. I'm your host, Kimla Lowe, and I have a fabulous guest in the house tonight. He is creative, he's talented, he's spiritual, he's an author, and we're going to be talking about his book that he has newly released. He is a returning guest on our show, and I'm so happy to have him. It's a very late hour in the UK, so I definitely appreciate him being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the midnight hour. And I want to say hello to everyone who's coming into the chat room as well. I have a little, I've got a little, there it is. I've got a little button right here. That QR code is for my website. If you have not had a session in a while, that is time to session up because we are really going into a very different second half of the year than we've had in the first half. We're going to be gearing up with a lot of planets that are going retrograde, and I'd love to be able to prepare you and help you navigate the next 6 months of 2023 before we go into period 9, which is a wonderful 20-year cycle, um, according to the Chinese astrology, and that is going to change the earth big time as we know it. So, without further ado, I'd like for you all to meet my talented, spiritual, creative guest, Nick Pease. Hello, Nick.
A pleasure to be with you again, and thank you
Oh,
for inviting me back onto your show. Um,
yes, we're still breaking up a little bit, so I don't know if it's just on my end, but we can try behind the scenes to see if there's something else that we can do. Nick,
okay,
I want to hear again because if you have not heard about Nick's book, Revelation, I read it. It is absolute. I mean, you are on the edge of your chair throughout the whole book. It's just a must summer read. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about your book.
okay, I will. I hope I'm not breaking up too much. I can't see anything on just a problem with the microphone, so I'll try and speak a little bit slower. And um, well, my book Revelation came about really from an idea. I should say at the outset that I'm a lifetime spiritual medium, so very much I've had a lot of extraordinary experiences myself of interact, but I had this idea that what if that could actually be proved? So far it can't be, and we rely on going to see mediums, can put you in touch with people on the other side. But the idea was that these two great friends who happen to be brilliant scientists, brilliant young scientists, on a mission by the CIA in Iraq uh, to develop a device called to really reveal everything in its energetic form. So the things like improvised explosive devices, landmines, etc. So it has a good purpose, but and to reveal these things in far greater detail and more successfully than. But the project fails, and everybody gets packed back to the USA, where the novel really takes off onto a real cat and mouse chase as the two scientists, quite by accident, whilst still make Revelation work, discover that life after death is an absolute fact. Spirit beings exist on an energetic plane, and whilst working and trying discovering more about the energetic structure of things, they actually discover that life after, and just like most scientific great discoveries, it comes about completely by one of them wants to take the discovery to their CIA mentor in Iraq, who has since risen through the ranks to be the White House. And our main character, Jack, thinks that he's going to be met with triumphs and everything. And it transpires that quite the opposite happens. You have a political or religious or military agenda, whatever it might be, see Revelation status quo and want to close it down and its inventors. And Solar Coaster Ride, where Jack, and he's then by that time confided in a university lecturer, have to go on the run essentially to try to the public domain before they get destroyed by the people on their tail. Kinds of things happen. The book is full of a lot of action, a lot of there's romance, but it really is it's short chapters. There's a lot of dialogue, so it's a very fast, easy read, and it's a thrilling ride. Read it as a thriller, because that's what it is, but imbued within it spiritual philosophy as well. I've brought to bear everything that I've learned and not just through being a spiritual medium, but having studied and having studied the world's religions, taking a great interest, etc. So without making the book heavy, I've brought a lot of this. So it is definitely not a work of science fiction, far from it. It's very much everything is based on the science and the knowledge and the religion of today. It resonates with people. And the nice thing is I've had a lot of feedback from people who've read it, who've said it's thought that, but now it's being presented to me in a spiritual thriller, as it were. People don't write these kind of books because, dare I say it, a lot of people don't have, they won't have the philosophical knowledge, the spiritual knowledge or whatever, and then to bring it to bear in it. So that's a kind of, in a nutshell, what happens in the book. And it's a very thrilling, I like to think it has a very uplifting, life-affirming ending. People have told me they've been moved, tears of joy, that is, which is a lovely thing to be able to do to people. But also within it, just a lot of thought-provoking kind of thoughts and wow, you know, what if we could discover it? What if we could, life after death as a scientific fact? How would that be received by people? Uses that question and makes you think, because it's me, you know, people listening into this may have an interest like you and I, Kimla, in spiritual and paranormal or whatever it might be, but actually a lot of people in the would find it a threat. You only have to think of the kind of that suppress freedom of thought and knowledge, etc., to realize that could actually happen, that there could be people who will. So it's a thrilling ride. There's humor, as I say, there's romance, there's everything else in it, and that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, that was wonderful. I'm just going to make a suggestion so that maybe we don't have an audio issue. If you have any other programs that are open on your computer, perhaps you can shut those other programs down so we just have you on in the Restream studio. That might be compromising
I'm
your.
just yeah, switched my phone off. Are you getting a lot of delay?
I'm getting a lot of breaking up on your audio, so we tried a couple of things before. I just want to make sure that we can go ahead and.
Right, absolutely everything is off now, so hopefully,
Okay.
I think
Hopefully.
otherwise the thing that could be happening is that we're getting a delay from, I'm on an iPad, and I don't know if that might have it shouldn't have. I'm just the everything's working.
Okay.
I can see the microphone working. Are you how bad is the delay you're getting?
It's just kind of breaking up, not really a delay, just kind of
Okay.
missing and crackling
Yeah.
and that kind of a thing. But we're going to go forward. I find that when we do have a very powerful guest on and we are about to speak about psychic things and mediumship, we have a big audience that's in our electromagnetic field that we can't really see. And sometimes they make their presence known by this crackling. And I
Yeah.
call them the peanut gallery. So thank you all for coming out there, everybody, even if you don't show up in the chat room, but thank you so much. You know, when I read a lot of books because I'm so blessed. I have so many authors that want to come on the show. And from doing radio for the past 11 years, there's been a lot of wonderful guests and I read a lot of their works. And I have to say that this particular book, I don't know how you came up with weaving and doing everything that you did and all the information and all the research. So that to me, I mean, have not, if you have not read the book, I am going to put it again in the chat room for you, and that way you can go to Amazon, and I'm going to put author Nick Pease in there so you get the right one. There you go. And go ahead and order it. And then when you order it, make sure that as you are finishing the book, you get on and give them a great review. Okay, because it's a thriller. It really is a thriller. Yeah, it is. So, talking about mediumship and talking about the possibilities or the validating of mediumship. I know there's a lot of universities and schools in the UK that promote and support, mediumship. We've had another medium from Australia on, and she was very, very excited to go to London. I think it was in London, or maybe it was anyway in the UK, and attend this very prestigious university to gain her certification for mediumship. Is this something that you've always had as a child, or is it something that you've experienced later in life? Or how did you know that you could talk to the dead?
Happened to me very, very early in my life, 4 or 5 years old, when the first thing I could do was hear them. As I got into my early teens, I could see them as well. When you're very frightened by it, as you would be as a young child, because it's outside normal existence, something unusual is happening, but you're too young to realize. And it was only when in my early teens I began to see them as well, really began to trigger something in me, and I recognized that there was more to this life. But yes, later on, Kimla, I did then I then did go to the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain, which is the kind of spiritualism, if you like, in the UK, where I developed as a fully fledged spiritual medium. And one of the reasons for doing that is to protect yourself and the whole discipline of meditation I was already doing, but to really do it in the right way. I don't have this because I find labels divide us. I don't like the way that if you're not a member or an enemy or whatever it might be, I think we're all, every single person on this planet, spiritual individual. I will respect your faith or no faith. To who we are as human beings, what we do with our lives. But yeah, I couldn't get away from. I didn't seek it out. It sought me out. It just happened to me that I could see spirits. So it became very, very natural for me. And that's why, from a personal perspective, for me, life after death is absolutely, but I fully appreciate that unless you have that experience for yourself, or you've been to see whatever, you should naturally be skeptical about it, and I welcome that. I think it's very important to be skeptical. I went and studied philosophy and got a degree in it because I wanted to subject everything, and subject it to analytical, forensic analysis to say what really is going on. From my personal experiences, that there are spiritual realms than just this earth, etc. But I want to find out more about it. It's lifetime's development, because you never stop, as you know. You continue on that path, always developing. I don't pretend to know a tenth of the answers to spirituality and life, etc. But I know enough to know that there's a great deal, and it's our birthright, it's our heritage, it's spirit want us with them. There is nothing wrong with it. You're not dabbling with the occult. You're not doing anything wrong with love. Always. They never come to judge or anything like that. They often come to comfort people who've been bereaved. And I say to people, what is a very natural thing. It's something the ancients understood, that you can communicate with. You come from spirit, you are spirit, you'll return to spirit. It's just perfectly. Now, I don't put a label to myself. To me, it's just a natural state of what we are, and we've lost. I hope we reclaim it, and as you said at the top of the the next 20 years or so, I think we'll see a great many changes. I'll be around to see many of them, but I welcome it because I think the earth needs duality at the moment. So many people and so many countries and regimes seem very, very preoccupied with trying to oppress others or impose against their freedom, and that comes because there's a lack of that. But I continue on that quest. So for me, it was natural. Came as a young child, those gifts at the SAGB and beyond. I've done a lot of other work, and serving at spiritual meetings and all the rest of it. So, because for me, it is a life journey that never ends, and you take whatever experiences you have into the next realms. So yeah, it's kind of a work in progress.
Right. And the people who are questioning, and I love that everyone's questioning everything. Um, but to get in touch with your own intuition and to get in touch with your own way of validating things, there's a few different ways that some people know that it's not your higher self, it's someone on the other side that's actually coming through. And when you were first starting out, do you remember how you used to validate if that was real, if that was really coming from the other side?
Yeah. Initially, when spirits would present themselves to me, there's no doubt about it. Then it kind of self-validates in a sense. But that was the reason for the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain sitting in circle, and I'm going back a long, long time, sitting with some of the best mediums of the day, and really how to meditate properly, spiritual meditation, and how to protect, open yourself up to your guides and helpers, and to question, and something that you learn over time, and how to then recognize when it is genuine. And you're so right about when you mentioned the intuition, it's you have to listen as well, and that inner voice. So it is something that comes with kind of application, as it were. It's yes, you can have gifts, as it were, as I did as a child, but to actually channel that and learn how to and question it and recognize what's coming through as genuine to all else does take some time, very quickly, but to be absolutely sure, yeah, you have to know of spiritual meditation and working, well, firstly getting to us really are, and that's something, and we all have them, and to have developed doesn't mean I'm special at all. Every single person has them. Want to be in touch with them, or there's still so much fear around. People are fearful of it, and a lot of people think because they've been taught by their faiths or whatever it might be. It always upsets me when that happens, because it just goes, was initially taught before those sort of ways of thinking can made. And again, I mentioned the ancient cultures who fully understood, close to Mother Earth, and lived much more spiritual lives. Not to say that they were far more spiritual lives in that sense, and understood these things. If you develop properly and, as I say, with good discipline, how to channel it properly, how to trust your intuition more, because mine was through our intuition all the time. And yeah, I'm still fascinated by it. It's an amazing thing, and I love it. Say that everybody's life would be a bowl of roses if they become. It's not what the life's condition is about. We're here to learn lessons, some of them pretty tough, but if you have a spiritual perspective on it, I think it makes it a lot easier to bear those burdens.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of reminds me, like in the last, let's just say 200 years, if you can think about it, No one even knew how to read. You know, no one knew how to read. I mean, they would post something in the village square, and you literally had someone who is the reader and read it out to everyone what exactly it said. So if you could take that concept and think about in the next 20 years, because we're going so fast, that because at this moment in time, you and I are readers of the other side. And if you can imagine that everyone will be called a reader of the other side during, during our future. And this is something that I know it's kind of a weird concept that, oh, your grandchildren is just going to think that's normal, just like they think the computer is normal and everything else. But yeah, if you kind of break it down like that, you'll be able to see how much progress we have made in understanding of unseen energy. And this is something that, technology, I think, is just going to be miraculous, because I remember when I first started directing my energy, disciplining it, accepting it was huge for me, because I was like, oh no, I don't want, I've got enough problems. I don't want to hear about anybody else's, especially when no one believes I'm really talking to them.
Yeah, yeah,
you know, and the thing is that once you start molding your gift, or this particular process, you start to understand, it's very, very normal. It's so normal.
exactly.
It's just like, you and it's miraculous we're even having a conversation, even though we're breaking up a little bit. We're even having a conversation across the pond,
Yeah,
live. So, and we get, and we get the visual as well. This is crazy stuff. However, there was one thing that I came up with, and when I started getting messages, a lot of times, when I would go to someone's house, either to uh, perhaps do a service of a feng shui consultation, or I also have a degree in interior design. So I would, go into a home. I had my real estate license, and all of a sudden the house would start talking to me. The spirits would talk to me that lived there before, or the people, the owners, the current owners, their loved ones would start talking to me or appear to me. And I never wanted to overwhelm my client in any way, shape, or form. I never if they did not ask me for a mediumship consultation, I never wanted that message to be presented in the wrong light, so to speak, because
exactly. Yeah,
right, it's a very sacred
yeah,
thing, right?
yeah,
So when I would start getting these messages that perhaps I wasn't asked to render that service, I always ask the spirit for a key word. And Nick, I've gotten the very strangest keywords in my life.
but
Very odd.
that's what makes them so valid. Yeah.
Yeah, very odd. And the one key word was wiener dog.
Wow.
I'm like, wiener dog. Okay. And sure enough, my client, in just conversation, comes up and starts talking about wiener dogs. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because the negotiation that I came up with, it was, give me a keyword. And if my client says the keyword, it's okay to bring them into the message. So
Yeah.
it was like a little password into the portal of mediumship. And I have gotten, like I said, very funny, strange keywords from my clients. And sometimes it's not really necessary because, if you're coming to me for a session in mediumship, boom, 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 it's right there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, if they just come in and they just want this message to be, to be told to them, I don't feel like I can break that sacred veil unless
Yeah.
it's okay. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's what I come up with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree with that. And never force it on people.
No.
I never preach to people. I don't think the way I do or anything like that. Absolutely not. I'm so against dogmatic that you come to your own truth. I will
Yeah.
never try to force you. And equally, just suddenly, even if I'm getting something about them, I will wait until, or if they know what I am as a spiritual medium, or I might try and bound so that I can introduce it to them if I feel they really need to know something, particularly who's been bereaved recently, and there is a very clear message for them that lift them. But no, never ever pushing it on them. And Kimla was about energy and just feeling the energy, and that's the whole of life. Life is energy. The whole universe, the everything is constructed of energy. Energy cannot be destroyed, and that's exactly why I wrote the book Revelation. They create a device that can pick up energetically the spiritual realms, because that happened to be vibrating at a much higher frequency than our rather. So these subjects just are very fascinating, but you're right, and start blabbing them out to people and saying, "Oh, I've got so and so here or whatever," and that has to be. You have to negotiate it quite carefully, and I doubt. I mean, people who know what I do, and I have done quite a bit of work on platforms that will know that I am a spiritual medium, and may come up to me and say, would you try, or whatever it might be. And of course you'll try to help them, and you'll try to give it with honesty, and just do your very best to help them with the help of your purpose. But yeah, I find your story very amusing. You do sometimes get given, and that actually that's something that very often come through with immense humor. I mean, the number of times I've had to almost get out loud because of
Oh, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
They're hilarious. And I don't want to say that, that this turns into a circus show by any means,
No.
but it is quite entertaining because their personalities really come through, and they want that to come through to validate that yes, you're having a real conversation with them here, because even the clients will say, yeah, it sounds just like him.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
I love about your book Revelation, and what I see in the future, is that when I was young, trying to form this energy and really understand it, nobody else could see anything. I could see things that were called unseen energy. And now, the technology is there that's coming down and coming through to validate that, yes, this is real, this is what's going on, and they can see it, they can plot it, they can graph it, they can hear it now. It's one of those things that, as far as futuristic technology, I'm really looking forward to being validated.
Exactly. And I think it will happen. I'm absolutely sure it will. Maybe not in my lifetime, but earthly lifetime, that is. But that's the fascinating thing, because more are working on energy exploration, because since Einstein to the development of quantum physics with Max Planck, the sort of beginning of the tree, etc., more and more is being discovered about the energetic makeup, our cells, our planets, our universe, etc. And so scientists are experimenting more about the very nature of it. But here's the thing: they're not necessarily looking for, and that's what I find so amusing, because, like I said earlier, in the scientific great discoveries happen completely by accident. You think of when and we discovered gravity. You think of penicillin growing, all these things that just, and space exploration, the number of discoveries, let alone the number of discoveries that have happened quite accidentally and as a tangent to, I'm quite convinced it will happen rather like in my book Revelation, by accident, that scientists playing around with machinery or whatever they might be doing, and suddenly they'll think, hang on a minute, what's going to, it'll be hilarious. But actually, being serious for a minute, downside to it as well, because rather like happens in my book, there will be those who will status quo, whether it's their political order, whether it's their religious, or it might be, and there could be a lot of opposition to it. I think it would be one of the greatest discovery in the history of humankind, but never underestimate people might do to try and close that down. But you're right, it's and closer purely because people are investigating more the whole nature.
Exactly. And I don't think they'll close it down, but they might try to figure out how to get those people, perhaps in the political realm, and have them vote.
Yeah,
They might
you
pass all of they might accept it a lot better if, they figured out who they're voting for.
you only have to think, Kimla, that there are several regimes on this planet who close down free knowledge and free speech,
Yeah.
who lie, obfuscate, who will do anything just to push their agenda.
Yes.
And so that there would be those who would say, oh, hang on a minute, they have very closed regimes, and anything that goes out of it and says, hang on a minute, guys, you're not the be all, far bigger, far more important, and they're not going to stand for that, I suspect. That's why I wrote Revelation. It wasn't a particular regime that was closing it down, who had vested interests who were trying to close it down. It could happen. So important to pose these questions. And that's why I say, when people read Revelation, I've been very to hear from those people who've got in touch or who've written reviews or things, that it's really, there's a lot of thought-provoking ideas and philosophy in there that even though you're reading roller coaster ride, at the same time, it's doing something that's saying, or this is making you think about what would happen if this happened or whatever. The whole concept of life after death fascinates us all. It's something that from the moment conscious, we kind of start to think, well, I'm alive, but death does the sense that you become very aware that great granddad has just died or whatever it is, that there is this other thing that's going to happen to us one day as well. And so he has a kind of vested interest of thinking, okay, is there a life after death? For me, because I could hear and see spirits and still can, so it's absolutely 100% a fact for me. But other people have to find their own. That's fine. I wish them success.
You know, there's so it's one of these things that is so normal that when you have lost someone and you're in the midst of grieving and you go to the grave site or you go to your treasured place and you bring flowers and you literally have a conversation with your beloved who has passed, or you write down, your thoughts or your love letter or whatever it is, and you put it there on the headstone. It's so normal. It's so normal when you start talking to someone who's already crossed. Not only are you
Yes.
talking, but you're listening to them and you're connecting. And I've had so many of my guides explain the ingredient of meditation, of opening the chakras and opening up the crown chakra and the ones above, because you're literally elongating your channel, and the universe can see that in many dimensions. So they're like, oh, bingo, we've got a radio signal over here to get this message through. And I don't think people, we used to have this cartoon when I was a child. It was Tom Terrific, and he had this tin hat on, and he had superpowers. But in saying how simple and funny that is when you're a child, when you're an adult and you've meditated and you're literally feeling this energy going up and down, that this energy is pulling from the cosmos. You can feel it. It's like you put
100%.
Yeah, you put your finger in a light socket. That's where that's coming from. Is
100%.
that
It's fabulous. It's when I go into meditation and the chakras, I often think of it as they can see your light. It's like a light comes on and they go into meditation and spirit come through you, and literally sometimes you can body. It's like you feel yourself blowing up like a balloon. Sometimes I can feel myself floating. The room I'm in, I've got my eyes closed, but it's like extraordinary, and I love it. When I first got into meditation, 40 years ago, or actually, that's frightening, way over 40 years ago now. You have to kind of recognize what's going on, and because at first when things do start to happen to you, and you do start to see things, hear things and everything, it can just be something that you have to welcome. Now I absolutely love it. To me, it's Aborigines who say this is the dream world, the other world is the real world, and that's how it flew into the real world when I go into meditation, and then I come back to this existence that we have on Earth. So
Right.
you're right, Kimla. It's like that shooting up. I do. In fact, I literally allow it to shoot up when I go into meditation. Firstly, I open up all the chakras, but then literally I see my light shooting up from head, and then it's seen by those on the other side who communicate and hopefully use you as a channel for good, for healing, for whatever it might on this earth plane, and also to imbue you with knowledge and help knowledge. So it's a vast subject, it's huge. The more you know, the less you know, kind of thing.
Well, the more
find it fascinating.
that gives you the inspiration to explore energy
Yeah,
on a level that you don't have to be in school passing tests, and doing that homework stuff. Is that you can, as a group, you or just having the intention of up-leveling humanity's energy and awareness, that if you and I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean,
and that's the
I,
thing.
is that right?
Yeah,
Right. I
absolutely. That's
know.
the thing. Is what I often say to them. I say, look, okay, I may have amassed all kinds of knowledge to myself as something I wanted to do in my life, but that doesn't. Every single person, as I said earlier, is a beautiful spiritual individual. It's your birthright, and it can come to you if you want to develop your talents in that respect. Absolutely, to do it. The only thing I would always say is, please do learn to do it properly. Protect yourself. There are mischievous elements out there. There are darker energies. Learn how to keep them out and to protect yourself from them.
Good point.
But
Very
the
good
right
point. Yes.
things, yeah. If you develop in the right way, if you're guided, you should have nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Exactly. You're
I
going, you're going to learn how to drive a car. You've got to learn, defensive driving,
yeah,
wear your seatbelt, ride a motorcycle, put the helmet on, do all those protective,
yeah,
checklists that we
yeah,
that we learn how to do those types of things as
yeah,
well. Um,
exactly.
yeah. And another thing is, as we're going forward, and humanity is now accepting that there's unseen energy there. Humanity is now at the point that, and I want to say, the educated elite echelon, um, has the bourgeois class, is now okay to talk about this in public. Everybody has these platforms where now the underground is coming up. The need is there for us to talk about this kind of thing and to validate this and to really bring this to the forefront. And I find that there's a lot of topics now coming forth. um, and the one thing that I would really like to touch on is that if you are a parent and you do have a youngster, or you have a grandchild, or someone who is feeling very sensitive, or perhaps is having stories or something like that, to really listen with your heart. And so the little ones don't think they're crazy and don't shut down we want to keep them wide open, and we want to keep them to where they feel accepted if they do have an imaginary friend, or they have seen grandma or grandpa in a specific, in the kitchen or something like that. Or if they tell you stories that they've had another mother. These are all normal things that are outside of the religious orientation. Let's put it that way. You
Yeah,
know,
no, that's absolutely right, Kimla. And it's such a shame that it literally at such a young age, and they start to get conditioned into where the faith or a way of thinking or whatever it might be, and they lose that. Shame, but I do hope that as we do go forward, and with scientists looking into things more, etc., that we'll rediscover that spirituality that we did long before man began to sort of create fabrications. The world existed or came into being or whatever it might be, and in scientific developments. And it fascinates me and also staggers me, the sheer enormity of what we're part of. Even before you start to think, you think about our physical existence, and that our planet which has something like 400 billion stars in it. Just think then, that's our galaxy rather. And then think that our galaxy is one of 2 galaxies. And that's just the galaxies that they can more or less measure through the rays that they have. And that's why you find more and more scientists, and I'm very encouraged by it, coming here and everything and actually say, you know what, we're going to be making some extraordinary discoveries in potential planets that could support life in the same way, not in exactly the same way, but in ways like our planet. And I think recently saying there could be something like 10,000 planets in our immediate could support that kind of life. So we're at the forefront of extraordinary. It won't happen in my lifetime necessarily, but that doesn't matter. I have a much longer, because of my knowledge about life after death. I see things in a far wider way. But there's so much that's going to be discovered physically and spiritually. And
that is what is so terrific, that we are on the forefront of this merging of energy and this fusion of science and spirituality. This fusion is what's going to propel us into all of this exploration.
100%.
Yes,
100%. We
100%.
haven't had it before, because
Right.
if you think about it, science and spirituality in the past, and still do to some extent. I mean, scientists are naturally very skeptical about, welcome skepticism. I think don't just accept things, put them under the microscope. Proof, greater proof. I can get it, because you can get it as well, Kimla, because we happen to be media. Get it in that respect. Let's hope that scientists can prove it to people in another way. So exciting, and you're absolutely right. We now have a situation where science and spirituality work hand in hand, and I've taken great pleasure. I won't mention his name, but I follow. So there is one scientist who, maybe say 20 years ago, would have absolutely thrown it out, without a second thought. I saw him recently giving an interview, was becoming very, very open to the idea of spirit existentiality, and recognizing that people are striving living to discover more about the end. I thought, hallelujah, at last, we're getting there. And
We
so
are.
it is. It's really, really exciting when science and spirituality will work together, so that if science does revelation that can prove life after death, instead of welcomes it and says, right, let's go on from here, let's discover more, because that's not art. And that's what's also so exciting.
Absolutely. Oh, Nick, this is so much fun. I could just talk to you forever. But I want my listeners out there to be able to reach out to you and friend you and ask questions and follow you and become a big fan like me. So, how do they get a hold of you, Nick?
Probably the best way is through Instagram. I have a presence, and that's Pease underlined Nick. So PEASE, and I'm on there. I'm very open. People could approach me, and people do that. Particularly those who've read my book, they like to ask questions, or which I welcome. And yeah, that's probably the best place to reach me.
And the other place, of course, is I like to send everybody to Amazon, but your favorite bookseller as well. Pick up his book, Revelations. It's just a thriller. You will love to read it on your summer vacation. So save it till then. Because you can just say, you can just love it and recommend it, and then you can read all about him on his author page, and just make sure that you also go and go back to give a great review. Nick, thank you so much for coming along as our guest tonight. You are a thrill. You really are. You're just adorable and creative and talented, like I said. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kimla. It's been an absolute pleasure again, and I hope we could do it again sometime. There's so much we could talk about, obviously. So it's been lovely.
Oh, thank you so much. And to everybody, thank you for coming along with me. And if you are going to be listening to this in the archive, I just want to let you know that we do have some sessions coming up. And I do have a seminar coming up June 19th. You can go ahead and book that on my website. So you can go ahead and get a Zoom seat for that if that's something that you're interested in. And that's the Flying Star Feng Shui for period 9, coming up in 2024. All right, everybody. Thank you again, Nick. And please have a very safe week ahead. Until next time, may the angels protect you and guide you. Good night, everyone.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.